The principles for the Intro-28 print are just like the previous Intro-27 print we just did. We're going to drill one hole in the farmost left print in the bottom left corner. We're then going to pattern that hole into a grid of 5 by 5 or 25 holes in the grid. Then we're going to take that group of patterns, that group of blocks, that make up that grid pattern, and pattern it in 4 locations total. So the first thing we want to do from the input screen is start a new program. Go to Program Manager, New, Conversational. It creates our new program, no name 2. We then want to set up some stock geometry, part setup, more, stock geometry. Yes, we want to size our stock manually. It is a 3 by 3 by 0.38 size piece of material. We want to set up some tools. Go back to the input screen. We have tool review, tool setup, and we already have the 2 tools set up from the last time we ran this job, so tools 1 and 2 will be used in the program. So let's begin to write the program. Part programming. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly for the first part because we've already done it on Intro 27. Holes, drilling operation, center drill, depth, tool 1. Next hole operation is a drilling operation using tool 2. And the last is our locations of 0.5 and 0.5. This should give me, when I draw it, one hole in the correct location. Now, from the review screen, just like we did in Intro 27, I'm going to insert a pattern, loop, rectangular block. There are 5 in the X, 5 in the Y. They're a ½ inch apart in both directions. Go all the way to the end or after the holes block, which is what I want to pattern, and insert a pattern end. This gives me a rectangular pattern of this holes block, and then we end the pattern after. If I draw that, I now have my 25 holes. Now, just like in the Intro 27, I want to take all 3 blocks 1, 2, and 3, and pattern those in 4 different locations. So I'm going to insert a block before. It's also going to be a pattern. But in this case, we have different locations for each one of the 4 parts. They're not symmetrical. They aren't the same distance apart in each axis. So I'm going to use something called pattern locations. Pattern locations can be used like mini part setups. This will give me the ability to individually place a group of patterns where I need it. And as we talked about in the last pattern, we have to include the original. So I'm going to do the first pattern at 0, 0, 0, which would be where the farmost left part is located. Now the next part over is 5 inches in X and minus 1.5 in Y. That gives us the first part to the right, and you'll also notice that that part says Z reference of minus 0.125. It means this part is 1/8 of an inch lower than the original. Now we're ready for the third part. Whenever we put values in for part locations or pattern locations, it's always absolute from the original 0 point. So in this case, it would not be 6 inches, which is coming from the last one. It would be 11 inches in X because that is from the original 0. Now we see that the location that we have here is minus 1.5, and we're going to go in an additional 1.25 in the negative direction. So I could either do the math with a calculator, or I can simply put 1.25 negative enter, and that put the value in for that third part. That leaves us with one last part, which is going to be the 5 inches in X plus the 6 inches plus the additional half. So we have 11.5 inches. The last position we used for Y was a minus 2 inches 750, and we see that this part is 5 inches in the positive direction from that, so we simply put 5 inches plus enter. And we notice that the Z reference on this last part is 0.25 positive. And I just realized that I forgot to change the Z reference for the third part, which was minus 0.3. Now, if I draw this, oh, I forgot a pattern end block. At the end of the program, or at the end of that last pattern, I must put a pattern end. Again, blocks 2 and 3 take care of the grid pattern. Block 4 is the pattern locations, and I needed an associated pattern end with that. So if I go to draw this part now, I see that I have my 25 holes, and if I zoom out, we see that I do in fact have zoom out. Well, I do have in fact the other 4 parts as I'm supposed to. And if I look at those in the YZ plane, you can see that they're all on different levels just as the print calls for.